And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and hit that little bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Breaking news. Brittney Griner has been released from the Russian detention center that she has been held in for a while now. Basically after months behind the scenes discussions inside the U.S. government about efforts to secure the release of Americans held in Russia, including Paul Whelan and Brittney Griner. The outlines of a deal emerged in the past week. Basically, people who are associated with the matter have come out and say the White House officials briefed the government agencies. The Russians would only agree to swap convicted Russian arms trafficker Victor Bout for the WNBA star Brittney Griner. So Brittney Griner is on her way home. She's on an airplane. It's been a long ordeal. I think Joe Biden and the State Department has done a great job. Like I said, never in your time, always in God's time, and when things can finally be worked out. And I'm so happy for Brittney Griner's family and all of her loved ones, her wife, and all of the other people who care about her. Like I said, once again, a very unfortunate situation. I think the most unfortunate part about this is that Brittney actually, it didn't even have to happen like that because she played professional basketball in Russia. So, you know, Russia actually used this as a tool, if you will, to get her released. It played more into what they wanted than it played into what the United States wanted, because Brittney Griner went over there basically to work. And so what the Russians chose to do was use her as a pawn, and the pawn actually allowed them to get Russian trafficker Victor Bout out of U.S. custody. And so, you know, I just think it's unfortunate. So now it's like, you know, where does Brittney go now? Does she go to Spain to play, to, you know, some other team in some other country to play? You know, now that the Russians have freed her from this situation? Or, you know, will the Russians say, and Brittney say, you know what, all has been forgiven, you can come back to Russia and play now? You know, I really, that's the part that I wonder. But I would hope that, you know, more importantly, she would come back, you know, kind of get acclimated back to, you know, American life and all of that. And like I said, for all of the people that said that, you know, the government could do more and so on and so forth. And I think people were actually trying to do what they could do. You know what I mean? But they actually weren't speaking about it at that particular time, as you see now that she's on her way home. You know, it's basically said law enforcement officials from the FBI and the Drug Enforcement Administration will spend years and elaborate efforts to try to capture the convicted arms dealer, the guy that Brittney was freed for. The release of Bout raised additional concerns about the precedent the deal could set, basically. And basically what I was just trying to tell you, and how the Russians basically worked that out to be able to get one of their, an arms dealer, or whatever you want to call them, freed from U.S. custody. It said Bout, a former Soviet military officer, was serving 25 years in prison in the United States on charges of conspiring to kill Americans, acquiring and export anti-aircraft missiles, and provide material support to a terrorist organization. Bout has maintained his innocence. You know, basically the publicity surrounding Griner included celebrities posting criticism of Biden and the White House on social media for not moving more quickly to secure her release, appeared to raise the Russians' price for Griner's release, law enforcement said. So, you know, I think the more noise that the celebrities made in this situation, it kind of showed that Brittney Griner had more value than normally would be expected from a basketball player who went over to Russia to play, you know, basically under a contract, or basically going to work, doing what she loves to do. And so basically they say that adds concern to the deal increases the likelihood that Russia, Iran, and other countries could use arrest of Americans to try to publicly gain concessions the U.S. otherwise wouldn't give. And that's the thing that I'm talking about. So, you know, the Russians basically seen that they had something that they could actually, you know, better deal, you know, for the release of Brittney. And so, but like I said, more importantly, at the end of the day, I'm glad that she's on her way home. And hopefully when she, you know, reaches the U.S. soil, you know what I mean, it'll be a lesson learned, like I said, because I don't think that they really had a problem with her having some kind of device involving her, you know, what was that, a vape pen or something like that she had or allegedly had, you know, from that perspective. So I'm just glad that she's released. You know, guys, you chime in on this and tell me what you think. Recent news, breaking news, Brittney Griner is released from custody, from Russian custody. She will no longer have to serve her time. She has been swapped for another prisoner in Russia, and Brittney Griner is on her way home. Yeah. Your boy Delray, Straight Gang.
Straight Gang TV.
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed
Now we've got the host of Cuomo on News Nation, Chris Cuomo. Thanks for taking. Now we've got the host of Cuomo on News Nation, Chris Cuomo. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, and thank you for the forbearance with my setting. I'm visiting someone in the hospital, but I wanted to have this conversation with you, so hopefully this will work.
So let's start off with one question on Donald Trump here, and that is, how do you think the Republican Party reconciles having put all of their cards in the Trump deck, knowing that the guy's going to go scorched earth and never cede power to Ron DeSantis or anyone, with the fact that they'll likely want to win moving forward, and that'll probably mean at some point not nominating the guy who's already lost in elections in 2018, 2020, and 2022? Like, how do they deal with the Frankenstein's monster that they created?
Well, there are a few different steps in what you're laying out. So here's what we know. When it comes to parties in a binary system that is fundamentally zero-sum, meaning they win because the other one loses, winning is everything. And that's the only thing that explains them getting this caught up with Trump in the first place. Not a real conservative, doesn't check many or any of the boxes that usually mattered to that party, except the biggest box that needs the biggest check, which is, can he win? And that was the deal that they made. Now, you can say, well, that's what every party does. Yes, but Trump was always a perversion of the underlying idealism and the intellectual construct of what was the conservative movement. He's not a conservative, really, in any way. So they only made this move because they had to, because he was beating them and they were scared. And this was very much in contrast to the methodical, thoughtful, deliberative, consistent move that the GOP has made on the state level. They have had a very consistent campaign of winning state legislative seats and governorships that help them deal with districting, that have improved their lot beyond where they should be nationally, because they're at a big registration disadvantage nationally. So that methodical nature, what they had been about, and that discipline was completely disrupted by the Trump movement. And now, look, there's so many different cliches and metaphors and stories that go with what happens when you make a bad choice. But now they are where they are. And the question is, how do they get anywhere else? That's a two-part answer for me. One, Trump is helping by doing what he does worst, which is, what we see right now between the trading cards and all that other things. But the second one is a transcendent newness. Will that be DeSantis? I have a big question mark in the charisma column for him. But that's what gets them somewhere else. What it should be is a populist move. It is a ground-up move. But
Shredded like Julian salad!
Honestly, and this is
I'm
going to
gonna
be
get this mission over with because like I'm watching Eagle.
That was the dopest shit in the history of human existence, bro!
When do you get the word out about Libertad?
Fucking savor the moment, dude! Chill! You realize how many views this is gonna get? Millions, bro! Millions! Only way this could get more views is if somebody fucking died!
Ugh, fuck. I should upload it. It's what he would want. Enjoy all the views, bro.
Hey, Danny, why don't you go show that workbench who's boss?
So Juan, why do you trust me with all of your creations? You barely know me, Acere.
An instrument crafted by a master must be played by a virtuoso. I have seen the way you play, Danny. You're like Stravinsky on Adderall. You have a gift.
Gracias. But I would rather have a gift for escaping this island.
exposed to as a child, it really shapes who you become as an adult. And I gotta say, I'm proud of Scrappy, because I had no idea that he went through that, and he damn sure don't look like where he came from. Scrappy's situation is a testimony to show that where you from don't have to determine where you at. Because in spite of what he saw, in spite of all the trauma and sexual exploitations he witnessed in his mother's household, as he said, she ran a whorehouse, a trap house, a drug house, Scrappy still ended up becoming a solid, real man. He still ended up being a good father to his daughter. And he still ended up as best as he could to try to be a good husband to his wife. Because based on what he's saying, he had all the excuses in the world to end up a nigga. He had all the excuses in the world to end up a criminal. He could have went on a totally different, destructive path. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Kids that are raised, especially young men who are raised in environments like that, they put their hands on women. Usually kids who are raised in environments like that, they end up hooked on drugs themselves because they've been exposed to things that they was never supposed to see, that a child mind can't even fully process. And so I want to salute the Scrappy for making it out the trenches. I want to be as respectful as I can because Mama D is his mama. That is his mother, and he still loves her. And he let it be known that he appreciates the fact that she tried to provide for him in the best way that she knew how. But it came with some war scars, some hurt, and some trauma that young man had to push into the back of his mind. And thankfully, this opens up a conversation that I hope many other people have with their parents, have with their loved ones. We need to normalize being able to express ourselves and being able to have our point of view respected, especially by the people who caused the trauma. I could tell just by looking at the video, Mama D has no idea what he went through. You could tell she's not really expressing the emotion that she should, but at least she seems like she's trying to understand. But like Scrappy said, he couldn't go to her as a kid because she was hard as a rock. And because of that, Scrappy ended up marrying a woman who is also as hard as his mother. He said it himself, he can't go to his mama because she's too hard. He can't go to his wife because she's too hard. And so he's on the concrete by himself, having to deal with things that a person would need psychological therapy to get through. And it just makes you wonder, how many people out there are suppressing childhood memories, childhood traumas, their innocence being snatched from them at a young age? How many people we have that's walking around dysfunctional but trying their best to be as functional as they can? See, when you go through traumatic experiences as a kid, you go one of two ways. Either you end up exactly like your parents,
Weren't there to the point where you needed that turn. You needed to create that conflict. And that's why